In today's video, we're going to be looking at ideas on how you can improve your 40k games with accessories that you can buy, build or borrow that will improve your game to no end. Let's buff those boys and move those marauders. For the roll. As with any hobby, you'll have the practice itself and then the tools and ideas on how to improve that hobby, whether that's for speed and efficiency or to increase immersion and spectacle. So I thought it might be useful to go through some of the many different tools that we can use in our community to complement our tabletop experience. Now my hope is to cover at least one new thing for everybody in this community, whether you're brand new to the game or a veteran player, but I'd also like to use this as a resource for our community so that we can then stack the ideas together in the comment section for other options that I might not even know about. Now, I want to make it clear that none of the products or resources that I'm mentioning in this video have been sponsored. These are just my opinions and insight as to what I've found so far or I've created. So, let's jump in. The first on my list are condition tokens. 40k is a game known to have so many ways in which a dice roll can be affected, from unit abilities to stratagems or army or detachment rules. It can sometimes be a little difficult to keep track of, especially if you're a new player or trying out a new detachment or faction. More specifically in 10th edition, tracking aspects of the game like battle shock on units can make a very big difference to the decisions you make. This is where condition tokens can be really useful. Any 40k player with a 3D printer knows of the countless resources out there of the condition tokens that you can print for things like +1 to hit, -1 to wound, sticky objective or that all important battle shock. You can find these on most 3D printer websites like MakerWorld, Colts 3D or Thingiverse should you wish to print your own. The set I have here are from designer Locke via MakerWorld. For fans of the channel, you may remember his designs complementing the transport case video that I did a few months ago. Once again, if you like the designs, show your support. But what happens if you don't have a 3D printer? Well, I've made you an alternative. These condition tokens are available to download for free on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description below. Each token has a 25mm diameter. You can cut these out with scissors, or if you happen to have a 25mm crafting hole punch like this, it'll give you the perfect circle. I picked up mine from Amazon for cheap, as it's just a very useful tool for crafters to have in general. You can print these straight at home and use the hole punch or scissors to give you an easy resource straight away. The downside of using at-home printer paper though is that it won't make these very durable, so I contacted a printing company and asked them to print the PDF file on 350 GSM cardstock, the same thickness as used for business cards. This will make the token much more durable due to the thicker cardstock whilst being able to still hole punch through without any issue. A special shout out to James at 3B Design and Print for sending over these samples as a fan of the channel. If you're in the UK and you need commercial print and design work, these guys are amazing. This is not an advert, just a thank you for the support. Now these are pretty good on their own, but if you want to make them even more durable, I purchased these 25mm acrylic discs from eBay. With the thicker cardstock tokens and these acrylic discs, you can make them stand up to even the harshest of conditions. Simply stamp out your discs using a crafter's hole punch and glue two together using a cheap glue stick to give you a double-sided token. Next, using some liquid superglue, coat the centre of the acrylic disc with a thin layer that covers about half and then place the token on top and squeeze with your thumb and index finger. This will then disperse the superglue across the face of the token. Be careful not to use too much superglue as this will then leak out the sides causing fingers to get stuck and messing up the token. If you do happen to have small beads of superglue pressed out from the edges, use the tip of the superglue bottle to spread this around the circumference of the disc. Once completely dry, repeat the process on the opposite side, giving you a reusable, double-sided durable token. "40k has precise measurements for every aspect of the game, whether that's for objective markers, terrain or your minis, so it's very important to have the layout of your board with clear and defined zones. Deployment markers are a key aspect of the game, allowing us to have an even layout of our armies, as well as determine whether actions for key secondary missions can be met. The simplest way to define these areas is to measure it out each time, but having some sort of marker on the board is a great way to speed up your game, as well as giving each player a clear view of the board status. A cheap solution to this is to use carpenter's pencils as your lines. Available at all DIY stores, these are durable and able to combine into most formations needed for your deployment. Alternatively, as a free option, those spare GW sprues that are sitting in the corner of your room can make great deployment markers. All you need to cut out is 8 straight edge pieces and 4 90-degree bend pieces, and this will work perfectly with most of the mission deployment rules, as well as the step deployments that are more commonly found in the prior Nexus mission deck. For those of you that have 3D printers out there, I've also come up with some designs myself with some additional accessories that you might find useful. The first of which, fans of the channel will recognise. Combat gauges are a really useful tool that can allow you to make the most common measurements very quickly without a bulky tape measure getting in the way. With measurements of 1, 2, 3 and 9 inches, these allow you to measure everything from unit coherency, engagement range and objective markers, to reserve restrictions, infantry movement and secondary mission actions. Ideal for speeding up your games as well as convenience. My second design is a dice dispenser. Storing and counting out your dice without taking up loads of room on a table will always be a bit of a pain in my opinion. Some people, like myself, have all of their dice laying in their tray and then have to fish out the right number of dice for that particular roll and then put them all back in just to have to do it all over again 2 minutes later. I wanted a solution that stored my dice, as well as allow me to pick up a set amount without having to count each time. With dice dispensers, you can simply pick up dices in multiples of 5 really quickly, and then take any singles or doubles that you might need, roll them out, and then when you're done, throw them back in the top and let gravity do the work of organising them for you. The dispenser is also designed with magnet slots, so that when you've finished your game, it collapses down relatively flat for transport. It's also capable of holding over 50 dice at once, so perfect for those horde armies. Now, this design is great for me as a fan of my Imperium armies, but what if I wanted to have my dice dispenser represent another faction? The faceplate of the dispenser is also magnetised to allow me to swap this out to a different faction-inspired choice. If you're interested in getting either of these designs, both are available to all my Patreon members. At the time of recording, the dice dispenser only currently supports dice of 12mm sizes, but I'm currently working on a second one that supports bigger 16mm dice. The combat gauges and dice dispenser faceplates are being updated regularly with new designs for each faction, as voted on by the Patreon members. For example, this month's design is Death Guard inspired. And finally, a few other quick fire suggestions that help maintain the state of the game. Laser lines are perfect for checking line of sight and whether a unit has cover or not. Rather than having to crouch down, squint one eye and then have 5-minute debate over whether my marine's foot can see your monster's tail, just pop out the laser line and that will confirm if line of sight is truly visible. This one here is from Army Painter, but there are plenty of other options out there to choose from. Really handy for confirming those quick decisions. Plus, according to my analytics, most of the people watching this channel are of my age, and so anything that can save our back from having to bend over and contort ourselves into weird positions is going to be a godsend. The next is using D&D dice to track wounds on your units. Coming from a D&D background, I'm a bit of a dice goblin, so I've got quite a lot of these, but you can pick up really cheap D&D dice that give you a range of options from a D20, D12, D10, D8, D6 and D4 to track wounds across all different types of units, be that monsters, vehicles or infantry. Another great tip is to use coins or markers like these to identify which of your units are going to be doing actions for things like secondary missions, especially those that run across your opponent's turn, things like Mark for Death, Sabotage or Recover Assets. My last suggestion is if you're looking to try out a new army or have fun building some lists whilst you're bored at work, and you don't have a Warhammer Plus subscription and all the codexes. You can use websites like New Recruit and Warhapedia to research and test out possible combinations. These are great free resources for the community to use. Now, there are a couple of caveats to think about when using these resources. The first of which is in that if GW makes any changes to datasheet rules or rules of the game, these can take time for the devs of these services to update them, so please double check and make sure that the information you're getting is accurate. Another aspect for these resources is that they kind of sit in a grey area legally speaking, so take that into consideration. But for those just starting out, the Warhammer hobby is expensive enough, and these give you access to understanding how an army may function before you start investing in models and codexes. And that about covers it so far, but is there anything you can think of that you've been using to help improve your games? Let us know in the comments below so we can share resources as a community to get better tips and insight on how to improve our games. If you found this video useful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you'd also like access to the condition tokens PDF, head on over to my Patreon page, which is linked in the description below. This is available to everybody for free. However, if you'd like to support the channel even more so, all paid Patreon members get access to the STL files for the combat gauges and dice dispensers, as well as many more that are in the pipeline. You can also get access to the private Discord server, monthly video credits, as well as monthly prize draws and many other benefits. Patreon memberships start from just $4 a month. I'd like to thank the channel producer, Danny H, and all the other Patreon members. Your continued support means the world to me, and I really could not do this without you. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.